Thank you, sorry, Mr. President. Thank you so much. I am very honored to be today in this meeting to take part in the panel discussion. I am not for the first time in Albania because I was also co-author of several opinions on Albania, and I remember discussions we had here in Tirana with different various representatives of different institutions. And as the President said, the cooperation between Venice Commission and Albania has exactly a long history. It started just in the beginning, exactly 30 years ago. So we can say that the Venice Commission was established in 1990, and the first cooperation with Albania started in 1995. And if you open the list of opinions prepared by the Venice Commission, this first opinion is just dated to 1995. And there are comments on the draft constitution of the Republic of Albania. So the Venice Commission was involved since the beginning in making the constitution of Albania. And then it was also one of the first very general comments done by the Venice Commission that in a very, as I said, general statement that Article 56 then of the Constitution, who was saying on the courts, should be created similar to Article 6 of the European Convention of Human Rights and should be introduced to the Constitution of Albania. So it was the first sign that the Venice Commission pointed out that the Albanian authorities should prepare the Constitution, and especially the provisions concerning courts and situation of judiciary in line with Article 6 of the European Convention of Human Rights. And we can say that exactly making reform of judiciary was one of the most difficult tasks, not only in Albania, but in all, we can use still the term, all post-communist countries. Because, as we know, the system before was built on the unity of power with the leading role of one party, Communist Party. Then it was very difficult to change mentality, not only provisions of the constitution and law, but also mentality, how to exactly create judges to be independent and to create autonomy of judiciary. It was a big challenge for all countries, and when you compare the opinions given by the Venice Commission with Albania and other countries, we can see that exactly a big number of opinions were devoted to the reform of judiciary. And the main task was to look for the best guarantees for independence of judiciary. In one of the first opinions of Albania, Venice Commission said, and it is the old saying, that justice must not only be done, but also be seen to be done. So it is exactly important also for society to see that justice is really independent and autonomous. And we know that the institutions, especially courts, were weaker in the previous system. So now it was important to create new guarantees to make it stronger and really autonomous. But we should also remember that at that time, when we discuss how to make the judiciary independent and how to regulate the independence of judiciary in the Constitution, there were a certain paradox in that time, because the guarantees, notably for full independence and irremovability of judges, have been bestowed open judiciaries and judges which were not yet independent and impartial. And it was done the guarantees, but then we have a group of judges that were completely not in the position to be independent because of the previous liaison, we can say, with the Communist Party. and they didn't understand what it means conflict of interest. And it was one of the important issues which should be also analyzed in the process of cleaning the judiciary. This guarantee, so it was so important to find this kind of guarantees which could, how to say, first, create exactly such a behavior to be independent. For that reason, they were taking attempts to lustrate the judiciary. It was one of the most difficult problems. It was discussed in Albania, and I remember because it was also my task to make one of the report on the process of lustration. It was a difficult task in all countries. I remember when I was a Minister of Justice in Poland, we had also, it was in 1997, 1998, we also met with this issue of making lustration vetting process for judges. It was not so easy task, yes, in all countries. But then we can say we met another reasons for making lustration, not only because of the, how to say, the old dependence to the communist system, but also because of the problem of corruption. It was the new wave of making illustration in many countries. It was very, very common phenomena. We, as a Venice Commission, analyzed the issue in different countries, in Moldova, Ukraine. Always the problem of corruption was one of the important, and the question how we can combating corruption and ensuring professionalism of judges, and what kind of guarantees should be created in this area. I think that in some countries the problem is still very, very important. But in Albania, the attempts have been taken to try to find the best, or maybe the good solution for making vetting process and lustration. Of course, I don't like to enter into making an analysis of all the drafts, projects, and opinions, because it will take us probably more than 3 hours, and it's not my role here. My role is only to say what were the main challenges and how the Albania cooperated with the Venice Commission, trying to find the best solution. And one of the issues which was also taken into account in many countries was the how to say, solution which means that would leading to the dismissal of all judges. This, how to say, step was not accepted by the Venice Commission, and Venice Commission always argued that the vetting process should be done, but not dismissal of all judges. It was such a step once was proposed by some of the countries, and then was rejected because of the opinion of the Venice Commission. And as we know, also it was the very famous amicus curiae opinion on the Venice Commission from 2016. And in this opinion, the Venice Commission, it was a question put by the Constitutional Court, and it was also the questioning the problem concerning the conflict of interest of the Constitutional Court judges, who also went under the vetting procedure when they can make a decision of the illustration cases. And as we see, it was a permanent process which involved many different problems. But the Venice Commission in 2016 answered that the disqualification of the constitutional judges because of the existence of a conflict of interest would result in the total exclusion of the possibility of judicial review of the vetting law in view of its conformity with the Constitution. So this would undermine the guarantees ensured by a functioning judicial review of legislation. This situation could be considered by the Constitutional Court as an extraordinary circumstances which may require departure from the principle of disqualification in order to prevent denial of justice. I only quoted this because I would like to show what kind of different argumentations met in that time when we looked, we used the word together, Venice Commission and Albanian authorities, to solve the problem of vetting procedure. And I think that finally the Venice Commission gave a green light for many institutions to make the valuation process, vetting process, even in the condition when probably a normal situation would be critical and would not be accepted. And then what was also very important, it was not only making provisions, as I said at the beginning, in the constitution, different law, but also to educate society and also to change a mentality and thinking on the conflict of interest and what does it mean to be independent judge. I can say that I have also this experience in other countries. Now we are making we have a special procedure in Ukraine, how to appoint the judges to the Constitutional Court, and still the same questions are back to us, yes? How we can define the conflict of interest, how we can define the impartiality, and how we can define what exactly does mean to be independent. It's 30 years since the transformation, 35 years started, but still in many countries the same questions are put on the table because of the practice and because of the sometimes, how to say, different difficulties because of corruption and better understanding of the conflict of interest. And what was, I don't like to quote, as I said, the provision of the sentences of the Venice Commission opinions, but what was also very important in this process. Vetting process is also one issue of great importance, and the second problem was the problem of appointment of judges. How to appoint judges. It was also a general question, what body and in which procedure the judges should be appointed. The strong discussion also was in the Venice Commission because some countries, a representative of some so-called Western countries, yes, then, argued that, for example, the Council of Judiciary is not needed in the process of making appointment of judges. But in so-called new democracies, there were rather proposals to create a special bodies as a national or state council of judiciary, which were involved, among others, also in the process of appointment of judges. And the main issue then was how and what should be the status of such a council, judiciary council, on state level. It should be independent body. It was also argued very strongly by the Venice Commission that such a council should be an autonomous body. What does mean autonomous body? How should be created? And it was also, as you know, very long discussion here in Albania. So discussion concerning the name were different. I used the name National Council of Judiciary, but it was Superior Council of the Magistracy, different definition, but it was the same body, yes? Body which should propose the candidates to be a judge. And such a establishment of such a council became, in certain point, a sign of times in the beginning of 90s. I can say that in the beginning, when in some countries there were the ideas to create such a council, the Venice Commission was a bit reluctant because the Venice Commission said that when in the given country is a possibility to guarantee appointment of judges, independent judges in different way, creation of the council is not necessary, is not needed, yes? And it was stated exactly in the opinion on Albania in 1998. But then, step by step, the Venice Commission has changed opinion because observed the situation in different countries when keeping the model that the Minister of Justice appoints judges could lead to the full dependence of the judiciary to executive power. Venice Commission then in later opinion in the beginning of 2010 and 11 then stated that it is rather recommended to create such a councils, and Venice Commission said that in countries that have not yet done so should consider establishing an independent judicial council or a similar body which would have a pluralistic composition, but which would be composed essentially on even a predominantly of judges elected by the judiciary itself, their peers. It was the opinion of the Commission since the beginning of 2010. As I said, it is a little change to the first opinion expressed in the opinion on Albania. But now we have still a very strong discussion what and in which way the council should be created. It's a question if exactly should be a majority of judges or only important part of judges, and which way, what bodies should appoint the candidates to such a council, what should be the role of like people in such a country not being judges, who should be a representative of like society in this council. The question is still open, and I can say that now it is one of the hot questions in Poland, yes, after so many years.